fall to the power of Republicans. Here's a look at where the House stands at this hour. Republicans surpassing the 218 members needed to maintain control. Our projection means Republicans will have complete control of Washington, that, of course, White House, and the Senate, which was seized by Republicans on Election Day. Let's go to Ryan Nobles right now on Capitol Hill. Ryan, explain what this means going forward to have both houses of Congress now in the hands of Republicans.
Well, Lester, this is the last piece of the puzzle for Donald Trump, as he now officially will have control of both the White House, and his Republican colleagues will now have control of the Senate and the House. It will make passing his agenda, the agenda that he ran on in this past campaign, that much easier of getting through Washington. And it does not come as much of a surprise, especially given the results of what we saw last Tuesday night, that Republicans were able to maintain control. Although this did take much longer to call than the races in the Senate and, of course, the race for the White House, in part because many of the battlegrounds that we were still waiting to project came in areas that were not presidential battlegrounds. They weren't in swing states, in particular the state of California, which took quite a long time to count many of its votes. Many of these races that tipped the balance in favor of Republicans came from California. This despite the fact that Democrats saw gains in the state of New York, which is a state that they had difficulty with in the midterms in 2022. Now, even though Republicans will control the House and they will control the Senate and they now have the White House, their margins in the House of Representatives will still be extraordinarily small. And Lester, while we are still counting the votes and while we can project that the Republicans will control the House, we do not know what the final numbers will be, but they will be strikingly similar to the margins that we saw in the last Congress, meaning that Republicans will have very little margin for error when it comes to passing these agenda items that Donald Trump has prioritized. And that process will get even a little bit more complicated once he takes office and some of his cabinet picks are selected. We know that at least two Republican House members, Elise Stefanik and Michael Waltz, have been selected as part of the Trump cabinet. So that will make the margins even tighter once this Congress takes over on January 3rd.
All right, Ryan, thanks. Let me bring in Hallie Jackson now. Hallie, this is a day of consolidation. We saw the action at the U.S. Senate a short time ago where the leadership changes are now in place.
Yeah, Senator John Thune now will be, for the first time in decades, the Senate leader in that chamber after Mitch McConnell decided to relinquish his role there. He will remain on, of course, McConnell will, as a senator. But you're seeing Senator Thune, now the Senate Majority Leader. You've got House Speaker Mike Johnson looking likely to become House Speaker next term as well. After just this morning, President-elect Trump threw his support behind Speaker Johnson at a meeting. And then, of course, President-elect Trump, as he was at the White House this morning for the beginning of the sort of unofficial piece to the handover. The official transition will happen, of course, on Inauguration Day. Republicans solidly in control there. So this is now, again, not unexpected. Republicans in solid control of Washington here. The question is, what are they going to do with that control? And how will they move President-elect Trump's policy proposals forward, specifically on the issue, for example, of immigration, where he will need Congress to back him up on some of the positions he's put out there, on the economy as well, as the president-elect has suggested he wants to put intense tariffs coming in on goods imported from abroad. You've also got this question of how the House got the majority in the first place here, and part of it has to do with Donald Trump himself. His very decisive win here in those 7 battleground states helped lift some Republicans to seats over vulnerable Democrats, specifically at a couple of seats in the state of Pennsylvania. We talked about that being the all-important battleground for the presidential election. Here, it appears that former president, now President-elect Trump's win was helpful on that front here. So it is a new age. It is a new moment in Washington here. President-elect Trump is certainly celebrating that. And now, come January, the business of governing will commence, Lester.
And the president and his team have certainly telegraphed what that is going to look like after Inauguration Day through the picks that we've been seeing here play out over this week for his cabinet.
Yeah, that's exactly right, especially as you look at his cabinet taking shape now. Florida Senator Marco Rubio expected to be named Secretary of State. You have a former Fox News anchor, Pete Hegseth, who has been tapped to lead the Pentagon as well.